military installations, which he did. He watched the firing of a Polaris missile from a nuclear submarine. And he also was down there campaigning. Another thing he did is he visited his father because they had a summer home in Palm Beach, Florida. And at this point, Joseph Kennedy Sr. is struggling health-wise, ailing badly. And so they sent him down to Florida where the weather was better to try to improve his health. And while he was in Florida, other than watching the firing of a Polaris missile from a submarine and campaigning, he went and visited his father at Palm Beach. Well, I'll give you one day specifically, give you some details. On Monday, November 18th, he visited Tampa, Florida. That was one of the places that he was going to give a speech, and they had a motorcade through the city, and they motorcaded him from the airport all the way to the speaking venue, and he gave a speech in Tampa, Florida on November 18th. So picture this in your mind. He lands at the airport at Tampa. They have a motorcade, the presidential limousine, police. We'll talk more about the parades later. And they parade him through town, through Tampa, and he gets to the speaking venue, and he gives a speech. That's where we're at on the 18th. And generally after the speech, what do they give you? You'll probably have to do this. You'll pick a graduation speaker this year. Hopefully you're thinking about that, by the way. And then what are you going to do? What should you do after the person speaks? What? Go ahead. Well, maybe that, but that's only lasts until you get to your car. What might you do for that person? I speak a lot of graduations. I always get something. Give them a gift. Some sort of a gift. A bit of appreciation for speaking. Okay? And that means a lot to people because that's something you get to keep. And say, oh, I got this when I spoke at Robert's graduation in 2012. Okay? Well, they did the same thing. So when his speech completed, he was given 2 gifts by the mayor of Tampa. You know what he really liked? Cigars. There you go. Thank you. He likes cigars. So he got a humidor full of cigars. You know what a humidor is? H-U-M-I-D-O-R. It's a place you put cigars so that they stay fresh. Not a lot of people know Kennedy was the smoker of cigars, but he was smoking quite often. So they gave him a nice humidor full of cigars. And another thing the mayor gave him was a doll. Gave him a doll for his daughter Caroline. Yep. And he actually was kind of cute. I'll show you a video of it sometime. Where the mayor's daughter actually gives the president the doll and says, I would like to have this doll for your daughter Caroline. It's kind of cute. So it was a good public relations thing. Well, Kennedy doesn't go straight from Florida to Texas. He actually goes back to Washington, D.C. because he's got a couple of key chores that he's got to take care of before he goes back to Texas. So a lot of people think he went from Florida straight to Texas. He did not. He actually did his thing in Florida, went back to Washington, D.C. after November 18th, and did a couple of chores before he left. Now the first one he did is he entertained Supreme Court members at an annual function. They did it every year, and that happened on November 20th. On November 20th, he got together, had to organize where members of the Supreme Court and their wives came for a nice White House dinner. And who joined him, at that dinner while she was still kind of recovering from her loss? Jackie. So Jackie actually helped with that as well. But she hadn't done much really in the public figure at all from August 6th to the 20th of November. But she did join him as they entertained Supreme Court members and their wives. What else did he do? Think of the time of the year. It's a tradition now all the time. Presidents do this. What? He pardoned the Thanksgiving turkey. And what happens is a local poultry grower, they rotate that. They have a lot of people down that area that grow turkeys for Thanksgiving. And then you get picked to supply the president's turkey for his Thanksgiving dinner. And they bring the damn thing live to the White House. And this was a tradition that started way back, in which the president obviously is not interested in eating the bird that he sees flying in the Rose Garden area. And what he does is he ceremonially pardons the turkey. And then they take him back to the poultry growers and they bring in one that he hasn't seen before. That's how it works. But it's a big deal to the poultry grower that gets their turkey chosen that year. It's good, advertising for him. So that's what he did after he came back from Florida, is he entertained Supreme Court members on Wednesday, November 20th, at an annual function at the White House, and then he did his local job of pardoning the Thanksgiving turkey that was given to the White House by a local poultry grower. Okay? All right, that was basically it in Florida. So now we're going to the Texas agenda. Texas agenda. And we're going to kind of set this up for you a little bit, and that's how we'll end the day. Now, Kennedy announced he was going to Texas, right? Well, after he announced that he would be going to Texas, his aides urged him strongly, do not go to the city of Dallas. Let's go ahead and go to Texas. Let's have those 5 speeches. Let's have those 5 motorcades. But we suggest strongly that you skip Dallas. And there were 3 reasons why Kennedy's aides wanted him to skip Dallas, not go to Dallas. Okay? And the first reason had to do with Adlai Stevenson. First reason why Kennedy's aides did not want him to go to Dallas during his Texas tour was because of something that happened with Adlai Stevenson. Anybody know who Adlai Stevenson was? You should. And what position is he serving at this time? Because it's not long after he's U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Well, on October 24th, 1963, obviously before the president's visit, Adlai Stevenson was invited to Dallas to speak at United Nations Day. It was a big program that they have yearly, and it just so happened to be in Dallas this year. So on October 24th of 63, U.S. Ambassador Adlai Stevenson was invited to speak at the United Nations Day program, which just happened to be in Dallas on that date. That makes sense, wouldn't it? If you have United Nations Day, that you would invite the U.S. Ambassador to speak. So not uncommon, but he was asked to speak. And there were about 2,000 people that were attending his program, the speech. About 2,000 people showed up for that. About 2,000 people showed up for that on October 24th, 1963. And 100 of those 2,000 were what we considered right-wing extremists. Right-wing extremists. What's a right-wing extremist? Barry? Come on, give us that. You know. What's a right-wing extremist?
A hardcore Republican?
Well, she's really being harsh. It's a hardcore person that's far to the right. Their views would not be seen as maybe reasonable or normal, okay? And what were these 100 right-wing extremists doing there? They were protesting against what? The United Nations in general, okay? They didn't like it.
Wasn't this kind of the same time as the missile crisis?
Well, 62 it was, about a year later. Yeah, about a year later. Well, so among the 2,000 people attending the program, about 100 were right-wing extremists who had come there to show their disdain for the United Nations. Didn't like the United Nations. And if they don't like the United Nations, who else don't they care for much? Adlai Stevenson. So here are 3 things that these 100 people did to disrupt his speech. So you got the head of the United Nations through the United States standing in front of 2,000 people talking, and here's what these 100 right-wing extremists did. Some of the things they did were incredibly childish. They coughed in cadence. So he's speaking and they're going like, the whole time. Can you imagine 100 people? No, serious. Can you imagine 100 people doing that while you're trying to give a speech? I can imagine. We have a guy named Anthony Mohammed over here giving a big in-service today. Great speaker, very knowledgeable guy. I can't imagine us having, you know, a percentage of our teachers there coughing in cadence in protest of him while he was doing that. That would be very annoying. Okay? Second thing they did is they walked up and down the aisles carrying United States flags upside down. Does anybody know what that means when a flag's displayed upside down? Very, very good. Thank you, my dear. It meant that the area in which the flag is being flown is in distress. It's a distress signal. Okay? So that's not exactly the most polite thing to do while he's giving his speech, is to walk up and down the aisles carrying U.S. flags upside down. But that's what these 100 people did. And the third thing they did is just yell and shouted and were disrespectful and weren't listening, and I mean just being incredibly rude. Just incredibly rude. And Stevenson couldn't take it anymore. He's a pretty patient man, but even he lost his patience, And he paused his speech and said the following. So all this is happening, picture this in your mind. Finally, Stevenson's had enough during his speech on October 24th, 1963. And he pauses in the middle of his speech and he says, and you can write it down if you want, you don't have to, but this is what he said. He said, quote, "Surely, my dear friends, I don't have to come here from Illinois to teach Texas manners, do I?" That's what he said to the crowd. "Surely, my dear friends, I don't have to come here from Illinois to teach Texas manners, do I?" Well, that didn't go over very well either. Not only did he offend the 100 right-wingers, he kind of offended some of the people that were paying attention. Okay? Well, he gets done with his speech, and as he's walking out of the auditorium, one of the 100 right-wing extremists, just happened to be a lady, hit him over the head with one of her protest signs, and several others spat upon him. So it was not a very positive thing. So again, as he was leaving, one of the right-wing extremists, who happened to be a lady, hit him over the head with her protest sign, and he was spat on several times as well as he was trying to get into a car that was waiting for him. That's the first of 3 reasons why Kennedy's aides thought, yeah, maybe Dallas wouldn't be the place to be. Just remember how Adlai was treated, less than a month ago. Okay? When we get back on Monday, we'll talk about the second and third reason why, and we'll continue on this discussion. So, okay, nice job today.